Hello and welcome back to the Lamenters. We are back at the table, virtually speaking, with everyone. And you guys are picking up where we left off. You had just defeated an ambush conducted by Anna and the mercenaries, Hans and Franz. You did some interrogation to find out a little bit more about these figures and discovered that they had been hired by a noble family from Southport to escort the young Miss Katarina to Lee County. Anna told you that they were supposed to bring her to a place in Lee Town called the Sleepy Oak Inn, and that they were supposed to meet with a woman who was wearing a ring with the letter N surrounded by lightning bolts, who would then pay them the balance for their services. You guys also found out from Katarina that she was unaware of this. She thought that she was being escorted to Lee Castle to meet with Lord Trevor Lee on behalf of her family, the DeWitt family from Southport, who are jewelers seeking the commission for a set of new jewels. So Katarina then implored you to bring her to Lord Trevor, and so that she could find safety and sanctuary, but also that she reassured you that Lord Trevor would, in fact, vouch for her story. After looting the camp, you guys basically let the surviving mercenaries, Anna and Hans, you let them leave on one horse. You took all the rest of the supplies and their other 3 horses and Katarina. And then you guys decided to continue on the road north. So that is where we pick up. You guys are traveling by road. The road is wide enough for you to go 2x2 if you wanted. There is, as you're moving along, you could actually ride side by side if you didn't want to ride on the road, but there's plenty of open space. To the west is a lot of woods, and to the east is the lake and the river. So as you are traveling north through the borderlands towards Lee County, what is your marching order? Who wants to ride up front?
I would.
So let's see, Claude, and who else would be riding next to Claude? Okay, so Claude and Bivoj, you guys are up front. Who's in the second ranks? Oldrad?
Probably Leonard.
And Leonard, okay. Oldrad and Leonard. And in the third rank, Sarah?
And,
Katarina?
yes.
Okay. Sarah and Katarina are in the third rank. Bane, you want to be in the fourth rank? So I will say that Bane and Liber are in the fourth rank. And Havardr is bringing up the rear and has 2 horses tethered to the back of his saddle. So he's kind of got the rest of the train in the back. Okay, you guys are traveling, and the first hour of travel up the North Road is fairly uneventful. At one point, you pass by what looks like a small cottage that has like some gardens, and you see that it is completely trashed. Like, the ruins of this cottage look like it was maybe attacked and burned, likely weeks or even months ago. And it's not right on the road. We're talking like a few hundred yards off the road to the west, kind of nestled in the edge of the forest. But this looks like it was at some point someone's house and maybe a small farm. You even see a small building that might have been like a barn adjacent to the cottage, and it is completely destroyed.
Let's make haste.
I'm gonna invoke Peshwick's name and cast Cure Light Wounds on myself as we're going.
Okay.
Can we tell if the
charring damage has been done recently, or if it was from long ago, or how does it look as far as age?
Turn your volume up a little bit, because I'm having a hard time hearing you, and my speakers are pretty much maxed out.
Well, meanwhile, I'm keeping
My
an
bad.
eye out on Critter, seeing how well he's doing keeping up.
Is that
Yeah,
better?
I mean, you guys aren't going at a really fast pace, I'm assuming, right? You're just kind of at a normal trot. So Critter's doing fine. He's just following you. What was the question, Bane?
I was wondering if that was better.
Yes.
Okay, I'm wondering if we can tell how old the fire damage is, if it's been a while, if it's recent.
You would say not recent, not within days, likely weeks or even maybe months.
Okay.
But thinking about what you've heard, this doesn't look like it was like a military attack. You see stuff strewn out all over the property, smashed, destroyed. You don't see any bodies, but then again, you're kind of on the road and you're looking at this from a distance.
How far off road is it, or is it
200
direct?
meters. It's so there's like a wooden, a simple wooden fence, more meant for livestock than actual protection. And you don't see any livestock. You don't see any animals milling about the property. And it doesn't look like the fence was damaged. So whatever attacked this farm looks like maybe it came in through the forest side.
You see anyone hiding?
You don't. I mean, if you want to go off road and onto the property to investigate it, you could.
I was just trying to see if I could see anyone looking at us, from the road.
I just say wait a bit and take a little better look with my spyglass if I see anything around.
I'm thinking this was low people.
Okay, as you're thinking that, and Leonard, as you are pulling out your spyglass, I'll let you make a wisdom roll under with a +4. So roll under 10.
17. Nothing.
So you're looking, and you certainly see things closer with your spyglass. It does not look like this was a recent attack. You don't see any people. You don't see any tracks of, anyone or anything passing by.
Okay.
You see behind the barn area, it looks like there might have been a chicken coop with a small fence around that, but you don't see any chickens either.
Okay, I don't see anything dangerous. Do you want to look closer, or do we want to continue to Oldrad?
Gonna look closer, but
Let's just get out of here.
Yeah, let's
Gotta
go.
get out.
Okay, so you guys pass this farm, you continue riding. And as you're riding north, you kind of get to a point where the road is now kind of going along, and you're basically, the path is now going through the forest. So you have trees on your right side to the east between the road and the river, and then you have the forest, a full forest on your left side. So you're
I'm
going
bringing out
through the forest on the north road.
I'm bringing out my bow,
Okay.
and I say, Katerina, if anything happens, gallop north.
She says, "Oh, okay. Anything like what? What are you concerned about?"
Ambush.
Imperials? This far north?
Are you sure sending her away from us is the safest move? Because then we can't protect her.
Probably not, but
Then
I don't
That's
know if
not-
she can fight. You know.
We can circle up. If something
Yeah, we can't
attacks us,
protect her
we
if
can
she's
circle up
gone.
and protect her.
Okay, I'll stay by her. Just keep low on the horse, okay?
Okay. And she kind of crouches a little lower towards the horse. You guys ride, and it is now around noon, you figure. You are in the forest, and up ahead, about maybe 100 feet, you see the road kind of turn as it's sort of following, the course of the river. There's trees on both sides, and you see what looks like maybe a wagon up ahead, but it's not upright. It looks like it's been, like, maybe 2 of the wheels were destroyed, so it's kind of like leaning on 2 wheels, sort of on a diagonal. And you see a bunch of stuff scattered around the wagon as if maybe it was plundered. So about 100 feet ahead of you.
Be careful, everyone. I don't want to be ambushed by some bunch of merry men in tights.
Well, I'm stopping, and I tell Katerina to stop, and I'm bringing my bow out
Okay.
and looking around, being really careful.
Are you guys still moving towards this wagon?
I'm
Is it-
stopped.
Is it blocking a road, like completely?
It is halfway on the
Look,
road and halfway.
The road's not blocked.
Half the road is blocked.
Okay, so
So it looks like the wagon. And there's no horses. You don't see any bodies, but it looks like the wagon maybe was heading south, like towards Angner. And
Okay.
2 of the wheels were destroyed, and it's now just blocking half the road.
100 yards, you said?
About 100
100 feet.
feet
100 feet.
Is
Okay.
it sideways or lengthwise on the road?
lengthwise.
And on the on the right side of the wagon, is there any land that I can go on my horse without being already in the forest?
Yes.
Is there? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there's kind of a, patches of dirt and grass just
I'm gonna
off
go-
of the stone of the road where, like, you could walk over there and kind of walk around. And the
Yeah, I'm gonna
forest-
dismount.
The forest, like, within the first 20 feet of the road is not super dense. Like, it becomes more dense once you go into the forest. So you could see
Mhm.
between trees. It's not like it's a blind right next to the cart. Like, you could see, in between the trees, and you don't see anyone or anything near this wagon.
Okay. I just
I'm
want
gonna
to get
go-
another vantage point to make sure
Yeah.
that there's nothing on the backside or hiding behind it.
Okay.
I tell everybody, I'm gonna dismount. I'm gonna go check it out real fast. I'm gonna dismount horse, take out the sword, hand the horse to somebody, and then go check it out.
Yeah,
Okay.
I keep closer to Sarah and also load my crossbow.
Okay.
I'll back
so,
up Oldrad from a medium distance.
So who amongst you is actually walking up on foot to check out the wagon? Oldrad, B-Boy.
I'm still on
Okay.
horseback.
All right. So you guys walk
I'm
up.
holding on to
the rest,
the
the rest of
wagon.
you are, the rest of you are being very alert. I'm assuming, looking around. You got your, your attention focused kind of all directions. Oldrad and B-Boy, as you get closer, you see that this wagon looks like it was carrying a few crates and a bunch of sacks of what you think is maybe grain. As you get closer, what you see are the sacks are just torn. Some of them are spilled out. The crates look like they were all taken off the wagon, and the tops were just torn open. And you look in, you don't see anything in the crates. Like, they've been cleaned out. Both of you make wisdom roll unders.
I am definitely under, but how much, I will tell you. I am 6 under.
I'm 4 over.
Okay, so B-Boy, you're kind of looking at the torn sacks and the crates, It looks like as you're looking at the wagon, the two wheels that were smashed, looks like they were smashed like with physical force. Like they didn't, in other words, the wagon didn't just go off-road or halfway off-road and then lose its wheels. Like these wooden wheels are smashed.
Somebody broke it.
Splintered wood everywhere. Oldrad, you're looking and you see tracks. You see tracks that look like about a dozen human-sized footprints, not shoes, not boots, that came from the west, from the forest, to this wagon. And you see them all around the wagon, near the torn sacks, near the crates.
Any blood spore?
You don't see any blood.
Okay.
You see that the harnesses for what you assume were, two pack mules or two horses were cut. And the horses aren't there. You don't see any blood. You also don't see any you don't see any like hoof prints from horses that came from the forest, but you see two sets of horse tracks going into the forest.
Okay.
And amidst the footprints going back into the forest, you see two sets of boot prints, as if perhaps maybe two people who were on this cart were taken.
Yeah.
Not dragged, but like
right
in line going back into the forest. And that seems to head, so it came from the west, but it heads out back into the forest going northwest.
Okay. Interesting. I share this revelation with Bivoj since he's right next to me. See these tracks?
Yeah, I do.
Must have been ambushed. They must have been ambushed, and then everyone was taken, including the goods, of course.
Yeah, everything is pointing towards some kind of smaller group, maybe. And just
about a dozen people. That's not too small a group. That's not something we want to run into.
Yeah, but
would it be possible, Bill, to push this off the road a little?
Yes. I think we can, but
the two of you just need to make strength roll unders, and you can basically shove
I'd like to do that
the rest of the way off the road.
If you would help me, B-Boy, let's push this off the road so we don't have a half-blocked road.
Yeah, Bivoj looks at his scrawny hands. I'll try.
Yeah. I got this old man strength. Let's do it. Let's get it done.
All right, make some.
I rolled a 5. I rolled a 5, way under.
Okay.
Oh, I rolled 3, so it means 3 under.
There you go. Got that. You got that scrawny strength.
So, Oldrad basically lifts the broken side of the cart and starts to drag, and then Bivoj kind of just pushes from the back, and you guys kind of roll it off, and it just sinks onto the dirt side off-road.
That's fine.
You do not find anything useful in this wreckage.
Got it. I'm heading back to the group and get my horse and tell them that they got ambushed. There was like a dozen or so human-sized looking footprints, and they took the people and the horses into the forest.
You know what? Actually, make one more. Roll me a d6.
Yes, a d6. Cool. 5 fireballs. It's 4.
You might find it curious that the sacks were torn open and the grain was spilled out.
Right.
Like
they
that was just left.
Yeah. It is weird.
But whatever was in the crates was
gone.
Cleared out.
Right. Whatever was in there was more valuable than grain, apparently. They didn't want it.
Well, can we tell by the wreckage who may have been driving this carriage?
What about our friend?
Didn't see any identifying marks.
Yeah, you didn't see any identifying marks, but based on what Oldrad was able to determine it looked like there may have been 2 people who were on this cart when it was ambushed, and that they were taken by whoever did this.
Oldrad,
Yeah.
how
Along with
many
the horses?
how many children those that family had that we met like
I
yesterday?
believe they had 2 kids and one of them was really small, or is it 3, Bill? So
Yeah, they had
two
2
that
kids
could walk
and like
and
a
then
toddler.
yeah.
Wasn't the guard the same or was it different? What do you think?
The what?
Oldrad, you know that this is not the same wagon, because remember how you had chased after
Yeah, I
Steiner?
literally saw
So
them.
Steiner, you also think, just based on the amount of time since yesterday, that
Yeah. They would've
this
been way
isn't the
past
same
this.
wagon, and you don't think that this is that recent. Like, this looks like this maybe happened a few days ago, not
Got it.
yesterday.
Got it.
Like, based on the dampness of,
Yeah.
how long the grain's been sitting on the ground, like,
Yeah.
it looks like it's been there for a few days, maybe 4 or 5
That's-
days.
Yeah, that's what I understand. Got it.
At least those weren't our friends.
Thankfully, we should probably move on now that the road's
Yeah,
clear.
we should end quickly.
Okay,
We don't
your
want to be
eyes
caught
peeled.
here.
you guys are
Indeed.
cautiously continuing on then? Everybody
Yeah,
kind of on full alert? You
Yep,
tra-
I have my
Oh.
short bow out.
Oh yeah, we're pretty paranoid now, Bill. Thanks.
you travel for another 2 hours. And again, you're still in that stretch where it's, woods on both sides of you. A couple 100 yards to the east is the river. You're traveling along through the forest. And you come to a small tributary, like, creek that crosses the road with a wooden bridge. And you see 4 guards at the wooden bridge. And they are wearing the armor of Lee County. They have 2 of them have longbows and 2 of them have spears. And as you're approaching, one of them calls out, "Ho there, travelers. Make
Hi there.
yourselves known."
Would these guys be old enough that I might recognize them?
No, in fact, as you get closer, the
Young
oldest
bucks.
of them looks like he's maybe 18.
Okay.
Like, the other 3 look like they're 14 or 15 years old.
Shit.
So the 18-year-old's like, "I said, make known who you are."
Be at ease. We are
there.
travelers from Ignar.
He says, "Approach the bridge slowly with your weapons down."
I stow the bow and I approach slowly.
Yeah, I'm riding up.
Stow
to-
an approach.
You guys ride up in slow mode, and you get about 15 feet away, and he says, "Please stop there." And he walks over. You see the other 3 are, like, very nervous. Like, they're not aiming at you, like, with bows drawn, but they're all, like, holding their weapons. Like, one of the 2 bowmen's, like, bow is visibly,
They're
like,
ready.
shaking. The oldest boy walks over and he says, "You said Anger?"
Yes.
That's correct.
He looks at you all, and you see that he actually looks at Liber, and he says, "A priest." He says, "What news from Anger?"
Well,
Is he asking Liber that, or should it? Or does
He's
anyone
asking all of you that. He looks around
Oh.
anxiously.
well, all's well. No problems there.
He says,
What
Ignorance
problems
still
do you
stands.
expect?
He says, we've heard mixed things. Some people have said that the Empire is staging an attack on Anger."
We bear a missive from the mayor of Anger, and we also bear this individual who has business with Lord Trevor.
You see he looks at you suspiciously. Make a charisma roll under.
No problem there.
Better you than me. I have bad charisma.
All right, here we go. Well, 4 over.
He says, that sounds like the kind of thing that Imperial spies would say. Show this missive if it's true.
Don't we have it? We actually have that, don't we?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
missive is not for your eyes.
He
And
says,
there is-
I'll determine that. I'm the
There is-
captain of this patrol.
There
Calm
is
down. Calm
Young-
down, lad. Here's the
young
missive.
boy. There is the
Calm down,
official
B-boy.
seal.
Calm down, B-boy.
He looks
Here's the
over his
missive.
shoulder at the other 3, and you see 2 of them are like bringing their bows up. They haven't knocked arrows yet. Do you show him the missive, Sarah?
I don't have it.
I don't know who has it, but if I have it, I'll show it to him.
It was whoever was at that meeting. I wasn't there.
Okay. He goes over to you, Oldrad, and he takes the missive and he looks at it. And you see him like studying it.
Can he read? Does he know how to read?
Yeah.
I try to like
then
visualize that.
And then he's like, hold on. And he goes over to the other boys. And you see them all looking at it. And one of them's pointing at it.
None of them can read.
And then like one of them points at it and the other one's not. So then he comes back over to you and he says, okay. And he hands it back to you. He says, just be very careful. We've had a lot of attacks recently.
Who's been attacking?
He says,
We-
what do you mean who? He says, the low people. Haven't you heard?
We've been gone from a long time. We've only recently come up this way. We saw a burned out cottage and a trashed
Cart,
thing. Yes, cart. Thank you.
wagon.
He says, well, so you haven't heard about any of the other attacks?
We've heard there's an impending horde. That's what we have heard.
He nods.
Or-
He says the village of Jera was destroyed 2 days
You know
ago.
where that's at, Claude?
Claude, you know that the village of Jera is west of Lee Town. It's in Lee County, but it's sort of situated in the foothills. And when you recall, the village of Jera was like a pretty small location. Like there were maybe 100 residents that lived there. And there was like a small copper mine. That's what your recollection is.
Okay. What were they doing way up there?
He says, Lord Trevor thinks that the horde is amassing in the mountains, in the foothills to the west. He says, the people who survived the attacks came to seek refuge in Lee Castle. Lord Trevor sent a contingent and to investigate, and there were no other survivors. And the village was completely wiped. They took all the livestock, they took food, they took mining tools, and maybe some people were taken prisoner. There were
Right.
some people from Jera who weren't accounted for amongst the dead.
Right. And as you read in the missive, that's exactly what the mayor of Anger is warning about.
He's like, yeah, okay, so just be very careful as you head north.
Thank you.
You don't want to linger. You should probably make it to Lee Castle before nightfall.
We'll do that.
I look over at him. Are there no men in your battalion?
He says,
No grown men.
well, yeah, I mean, there are some, but most of them are at the castle or they're doing patrols to the smaller hamlets.
How are you protecting yourselves?
He says, well, we don't stay here all night. Lord Trevor said that it's not safe, so in a few hours, we're going to head back to the castle.
You're welcome to ride with us if you'd like.
Well, we can't abandon our post. There might be other travelers who are seeking safety.
Oh yeah, I
We
forgot
have
it was
to
only
protect
noon.
the bridge.
You guys are doing an admirable job.
He says yesterday while we were here, there was a family of refugees. They were riding with a farmer who was heading to Leetown.
Good. I'm glad people are making it safely.
That's our job. We have to protect the bridge so that travelers can make it safely.
And you're doing a fine job. Thank you.
Keep up the good work.
He says, hey, while you were on the road, you said you were in anger, right?
That's where we came from.
He says, He says, my uncles were taking a wagon to Anger with some trade goods. They had some tools and some sacks of grain. I wonder, did you guys see anyone from Lee County coming into Anger yesterday? Or maybe a
Afraid
few
we
days
found
ago?
the remains of their wagon on the road here.
What? What?
They've
When?
been ambushed.
Were they killed? What happened?
There was no
There were
bodies.
no signs of blood. We didn't see anything. No bodies.
Looks like the tools and stuff were taken. They left the grain. They took the people, took the horses.
He says, it doesn't make any sense. They were
do you
traveling
mean?
during the day. Why have they been attacked during the day unless the low people are becoming more bold?
They came out of the
Attack on
forest. I
Jera
saw the
took place at
tracks.
night.
They
You
were
said
ambushed
what?
from the
You saw
forest.
tracks?
Yes. They came out of the forest, about a dozen or so, and I saw two booted tracks and the horse tracks leading back into the forest. So I assume that
It was about 2 hours.
no,
horse
it was
ride
longer
back.
than. Oh yeah. It seemed it was maybe a day or two ago. According to how old the tracks were.
He says that would be about the same time as when they were heading out.
What need would the low people have of slaves?
Or tools. Are they that complicated or civilized?
No.
This
mean,
seems to be
Not,
something else
not
afoot.
that
here.
I've ever known of or heard of.
They could be
In any-
being, they
Mhm.
they
In
could
any
be
case,
manipulated right now by something.
in any case, there is danger for us all, and we need to get to the castle before nightfall. Please, care well for yourselves.
Yes.
And I start kicking the horse forward and motioning to Katerina.
As you guys are riding past, the boys kind of move so that you can cross the bridge. The bridge is just wide enough to accommodate 2x2 or a wagon. And you cross the bridge, and as you're going by, one of the boys kind of waves at you and says, "May the one true God watch over you on the road."
I stopped waving.
And you also.
You see Liber give them a blessing of the one true God. You pass by the bridge and you continue on the road. This part of the road continues with woods to your right, forest to your left. You travel for another 2 hours. And as you are traveling up the road, the forest kind of starts to thin as you're passing so that you can actually see the river. There's bushes and kind of tall grass between you and the river. But basically, you could see, 100 meters away, you could kind of see the river. You see, as you're going along, there's a cottage, like a little cottage nestled right along the river. And you actually see like a wooden dock and a small fishing boat. You do not see any people at this cottage.
Does the cottage look damaged?
It doesn't. It actually looks intact.
I'd like to look further.
I think we should just keep going.
So you're on the road. About 100 meters east of you is this cottage. You see a small garden, and then you see beyond the cottage, you see a wooden dock with a fishing boat. But you do not see any people. And the cottage, the boat, and the dock seems to be intact.
They
They might
probably
have
went to the
abandoned it.
castle.
Yeah.
Yeah, they probably pulled everybody in. Everyone's scared.
Mhm.
So are you continuing along on the road, or do you want to stop?
That's what I vote for. We should
Keep
just
going.
go.
Keep going.
Sorry, Bane. Next time, okay?
Okay. You guys continue on the road. Your travels for yet another hour. So mid-afternoon. The forest to the west becomes thinner, such that, it's kind of open grasslands now. Sporadic trees, but no dense forest. And Claude, you see like familiar sights. Like you feel like you're getting closer to the castle and to Lee Town.
Yeah. Home ground.
To the west, as you continue traveling, you see kind of rolling hills. Again, sporadic trees, tall grass. Seems familiar to you, Claude, from your memories.
Mm-hmm.
You see, as you're passing towards Lee Town, you see sparse farms. You see farms with livestock and people like working. But at each of the farms, you see a contingent of 6 militia members. Most of them are on foot, but with each one of these deployed units, you see at least one soldier on a horse. Continuing.
Yeah. If they don't interact or anything, just keep going.
You notice, like, as you pass by these farms, both on the west and the east side of the road, you do see, like, people stop and, like, look at first. And you see, like, some of the soldiers kind of look over at you, but then they kind of go back to what they're doing.
Yeah, just give them a wave and keep going.
Okay. By around 4 o'clock, you arrive. You start coming in towards Lee Town. And the first thing that you notice, Claude, is that the town of Lee is bigger than what you remember it being. You notice that there is a wooden palisade that looks like it's been constructed within the last few years. You notice that there are more buildings, both outside of the palisade and within the palisade. But in the distance, you see the hill, and atop the hill, you see Lee Castle.
Yeah. Well, guys, it's bigger than I remember. They must have grown in the last couple of years.
You see that as you guys are coming up to the palisade, the gate that the north road passes through is open, but you see 8 guards outside of that gate. And along the palisades and the ramparts, you see guards walking patrol. There is also a tower on the western corner, the southwest corner of the palisades, and you see guards in that tower, and some of them have spy glasses. As you approach the gates, the guards stop you. One of them comes up and asks what your business in Lee Town is.
We've come to deliver a missive from the mayor of Aigner, and we've also come across this lady here who has business with Lord Trevor.
He
I
looks at
poke
you
her and I
says,
say, introduce yourself.
She says, I am Katarina DeWitt of the DeWitt family, and I'm here on business to see Lord Trevor Lee. The guard is in his 20s. He walks over and he says, let me see the missive, please. And you notice that he's eyeing all of you. He takes the missive out and he reads it and he says, ah. He hands it back to you and he says, you'll need to make your way through town and you'll need to present that missive at the castle gate.
Of course.
He says, did any of you came from Aigner?
Yes.
Was there a patrol at the bridge?
Yes.
And how many soldiers were there?
4.
Good.
And they were doing a good job.
Welcome to Lee Town.
Thank you.
You guys go into the town. The road inside the palisade is a cobblestone road. You see that there are buildings lining the main road through town, the north road, but there are smaller, just dirt roads that kind of cut off from this main road, along which you see a variety of buildings. It looks like there are quite a few cottages where people live. You see some shops that look like they're maybe 2-story shops. You pass, some of the typical shops that you would see in a small village, different craftsmen, different trades. You pass by a larger wooden building, a 3-story wooden building, and you see that it has a sign outside, and it appears to be the Carpenters Guild. And as you continue through the main road, Claude, you see some of these buildings look familiar, but a lot of them seem like newer within the last 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
You pass, and as you are proceeding along the north road, you see kind of a side road that's also cobblestone that goes up a hill towards Lee Castle. And beyond that, the road continues north through town.
Do we pass the building with the sign of the Sleepy Oak Inn?
You do.
I just want to note where it is.
At the point where the north road continues, but the road splits off up the hill towards the castle, just to the north of that split, you see an inn at the corner of a block of buildings. It's a 2-story inn with a front porch, and you see a sign that has a picture of an oak.
And I indicated.
You do see people like milling about, in the town, conducting their business, people walking to and fro.
I indicate the inn to Katarina and I say, we'll stay away from there.
She has like an expression of concern, and she looks back up to the castle and she says, yes, thank you. You guys go up the path?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I guess
as you go up the path, you see that ahead of you, the path kind of gets to the top of the hill, and then it levels out for a short distance that kind of creates sort of this overlook. And you kind of look down at the town from that vantage point. You see that the castle gates are closed, but there are 2 towers flanking the castle gates. The castle's walls are built of stone, and Claude, you remember that these walls have been around for quite some time. The castle seems just as sturdy as ever.
Mm-hmm.
What you notice, though, is that the gates look as if they have been recently reinforced. So they are large wooden gates with metal banding across them.
Mm-hmm.
You see there is a pair of towers flanking the gates where you see two men, one with a bow in each tower and the other with a spyglass, and both of those men are looking around with the spyglasses. And outside of the gates, you see one guard. This one guard looks like he's perhaps a little bit older, maybe in his 30s. And you notice that he's wearing chainmail armor.
Mm-hmm.
He sees you guys approaching. He walks over to you and he says, "Oh there, what business do you have at Lee Castle?"
Hi there. We have business here. Both of this lady we're escorting, as well as a missive from the mayor of Engnar that we have for Lord Lee. Yeah, we see Oldrad handing it down.
He walks over, he takes the missive and looks at it. He says, "How long have you been traveling?"
2 days.
And this missive was written by Mayor Dougal Durst
Yes.
for you to be delivering here.
Yes.
He says, "Very well. You will be admitted to the castle grounds. You will check your weapons at the armory just inside of the gates.
Of course.
And then I will see to the steward to make arrangements for your audience with Lord Trevor." And you see he looks up at the castle and he points, and you hear the sound of cranks being turned, and you see the gates start to open, and this creaking sound as the gates are opened. You are brought inside of the castle walls, and you see just immediately to your right a wooden building. And you guys are brought over to the wooden building. Several other members of the militia take the reins of your horses and lead them to stables. In the wooden building, you see a sergeant-at-arms, an older gentleman, who basically takes all of your weapons and gives you a wooden token with a number on it. Most of you, I'm assuming, are cooperating fully with this procedure. Okay.
Yep.
Yes.
So most of you, it seems to be a very cut and dry procedure. Like this is something that they do all the time. So as
Same
you're
as in
lining
Anger.
up, yeah, it's very, very similar to the operation that you saw in Anger. As you are lining up, you're giving your weapons. You get your wooden token. Oldrad,
Yes.
you pull that big greatsword off your back.
Shit.
The sergeant-at-arms looks at you, and he looks at the greatsword. He looks at the rest of you. Then he looks back at the greatsword, and then he looks at you again, and he says, "Where did you get this?"
Shit, I didn't want to say anything.
He says, "Are you a noble?"
We got it from the ruins of a noble house.
Fuck.
He looks at Sarah and he says, "Where?"
I give him a general direction of,
I'll tell him the best of my ability that where we got it.
yeah.
I'm not gonna lie,
Yes.
because I suck at charisma.
He says, "You found this in the ruins of a noble house in the Borderlands?"
Yes.
Oh. Very well. He puts it on a shelf with your other weapons. He hands you a wooden token. The captain then comes over and escorts you through the courtyard. At the far end of the courtyard, you see a group of teenage boys drilling with a sergeant. They are using their swords to attack dummies. There's another area of the courtyard where they are shooting bows at targets, and another area of the courtyard where they're using spears and shields and going through drills with spears and shields. It looks like there's about 36 of these teenage boys being drilled. At another end of a courtyard, you see a group of men who are basically, it looks like a patrol that just got back in. Like they're stabling their horses. Some of them are going over to this open building that has basically a roof and a bunch of long tables and chairs and benches, and there's food being served. And then you see another building that looks like maybe a barracks. You see to the left of you the blacksmith and forge, and you see 4 blacksmiths working, repairing armor and sharpening blades. All this is going on within the castle grounds. The captain leads you guys over to the main entrance of the castle itself. And you see an older gentleman with gray hair waiting there. And he's not wearing armor. He's wearing very nice clothing. Captain says, "Steward, these are the ones who just came with this missive from Mayor Durst from Aegner." Steward looks at all of you and he says, "Welcome to Lee Castle. Please follow me." And he turns and walks into the castle.
So far, have I recognized anyone from way back when?
You haven't recognized anyone. And no one, to a point also, even the older people like this steward, none of them look familiar to you, and none of them seem to recognize you.
Yeah.
You are led into the entrance of the castle, and it is a huge entrance foyer. You see a set of stairs that go up to the second level, and you see a long hallway. You pass down the long hallway following the steward. You pass by a large dining room and the kitchens across the hall from that dining room. You pass by 2 different parlor rooms with open doors, and then you pass into the Great Hall. And inside of the Great Hall, you see what looks very familiar to you, Claude, from your time when Lord Trenton Lee was the Lord of Lee County. It doesn't look like the Great Hall has changed very much. You see family portraits of the Lee family, paintings that are mounted on the wall. You see tapestries depicting key moments in the history of Lee County.
Mm-hmm.
And across the way, you see a dais, like a raised stage. And on that raised stage, you see a large, ornate, wood-carved chair, which you recognize. That is the seat of Lee County. And on that seat, you see a man sitting on that seat. And as you guys enter the room, the steward says, "Lord Trevor Lee." And the man that you see on the seat looks somewhat familiar to you, Claude.
Mm-hmm.
Though you recognize some of the features of the face in the boy that you remember as Trevor Lee.
Okay.
He's fair-skinned, like his father was. He has kind of the same brown hair, though his father wore his hair short, more in the style of a military man. You see that the man seated on the chair has kind of medium-length brown hair, sort of parted to the side. He is clean-shaven. and wearing finery befit for a nobleman. And he looks out at you guys and he says, "Welcome." And he stands up from his chair and walks across the dais and steps down and walks towards you. And he stands about 5 feet away from the group of you. He says, "I was told by my steward that you had a missive from Mayor Durst of Aegner."
That's
"May I
correct.
see it?"
Yes, Your Majesty, and I hand it to the steward, I assume, to give to him.
The steward then takes it from you and hands it to Lord Trevor. Lord Trevor looks at it, takes a few moments to read it. He says, "Well, Mayor Durst's request is a difficult one. As you may have noticed, we are very short on reinforcements. I have had to take to conscripting some of the local citizens who are young with very little training in order to shore up our defenses. I'm not
We know
certain that I will be able to accommodate Mayor Durst's request, as I was actually drafting a missive myself to recall our reinforcements from Aegner."
That's what he was afraid of, Your Majesty.
Might I inquire?
Yes, please, I'm no king. You may just refer to me as Lord Trevor, but I thank you. He says,
Yes, Lord Trevor.
I'm curious as to how you came into the employ of Mayor Durst. Are you residents of Aegner yourselves?
No, my lord.
We are not. I am Sarah Florian Marjit. My family is from the Eastern Kingdoms. Our family are mercantilers and traders. I, of late, was a soldier in the Eastern Kingdoms before I left my commission and became employed escorting caravans and such from the Eastern Kingdoms into the borderlands. I have never been this far north.
He says,
I'm a little nervous. This is...
Well, my lady, you're most welcome. I myself have not had great experience dealing with any nobles from the Eastern Kingdoms, as since the formation of the Empire, our contact with any of the kingdoms really outside of the borderlands has been extraordinarily limited since the occupation of Southport.
I understand. And we came upon this young lady here, Katerina DeWitt. She says she has business here.
She does a curtsy to Lord Trevor, and he says, "Miss, you'll have to forgive me. I'm not familiar with your family either." And she says, "Lord Trevor, my family is a noble merchant family in Southport, and our specialty is jewelry making, and my father sent me to meet with you to inquire regarding the commission of jewels for your noble house." You see Lord Trevor look at her and he says, "Well," he says, "Young miss, I must apologize." Actually, he wouldn't say young miss. They're like the same age. He says, "Miss, I must apologize. Jewels befitting my noble family, while I'm certain that your family could provide the greatest craftsmanship, are not a priority for my house at this time. We are in the midst of a the rumors of low people forming a horde, I believe, are not simply rumors anymore. He
It is
says,
not.
one of our villages to the southwest of the castle, a small village called Jera, was overrun. Not only was it overrun, but many people were killed trying to defend it, and I believe many others have been abducted. Now, this could not simply be pulled off by a raid from low people. This was a coordinated attack. My captains who went to investigate following the arrival of these refugees and the story of what they had escaped, my captains informed me that the methods by which this attack was done were strategic in nature. Very unlike a raid from the low people, but more like a planned military attack, such that the men who were part of their volunteer militia were the first ones to be attacked, and after they were defeated, this army strategically went to specific places around Jera, taking food, taking livestock, taking any weapons or tools, but leaving much of the rest of it, or burning that which they left behind. He says 40 residents of Jera were able to flee and find their way here to the castle for sanctuary. He says, but there are likely 80 other able-bodied men and women who were abducted that were not found amongst the dead. He says, so you'll have to forgive me, Miss Katarina, but unfortunately, jewels are a luxury which I cannot afford at this time. I'm struggling to hold Lee County together.
If I may, my lord.
She says, my lord, I understand completely. My family is from Southport, and we did not know of this news or these recent troubles that you have had here. She says, I completely understand your current predicament. And she kind of bows again.
But please do not send her away. We have learned that this young woman is herself in danger of being abducted. And we ask if you can to protect her. We know who she was supposed to meet and where this person is inside this town.
Says, I'm confused. I thought she just said, and you said, that she was here regarding a jewelry commission.
She was, her escorts, her original escorts were under the employ of some, I don't know who, nefarious person who happened to wear a ring with lightning bolts and the letter N on it. They were supposed to take her to this person at the Silver Oak and for a ransom of some sort.
Sleeping Oak.
Sleeping Oak, thank you.
He says, well, that sounds terrible. He says, my lady, you will have sanctuary here, if that is your desire, until such time as safe travel arrangements can be made for you to return to Southport. He says, it is not safe to travel by road. And frankly, I commend all of you for being brave enough to make the journey by road from Angner. It is nonetheless safer, but not completely safe to travel by river. There have been other strange incidences along the waterways that have been occurring that we don't believe are related to these attacks by the low people, but are nonetheless perils which typically can be avoided by traveling by river during the day, but that also means that the trip takes longer. He says, I have sent word to other communities throughout the borderlands, trying to provide updates about what has been happening here. And those who've traveled by river during the day seem to be able to do so with relative safety. Those who have tried to push on through the night have often disappeared. He says, so
My lord. Oh,
it would be
never mind.
prudent if we were to make arrangements for you to travel to Southport, to travel in small legs of the journey, by day, docking by night, and then traveling again during the day. He says, but these arrangements will need to be made at a later date. Right now, I'm very focused on the defense of Lee County.
All right.
Claude?
Yeah, Lord, not quite sure how to tell you this. We wanted to get all this out of the way first, but I'm not sure if you might remember me. It's been 14 years, and this is going to be, just let me explain until you react, please.
Okay.
14 years ago, your father sent me and a group out on a secret mission. And during that mission, during those storms from those years ago, something happened, and I found myself here and now, about a week ago, up in the mountains that I didn't know how any of us got there. All of us here, except for Lady Catherine, we found ourselves up on a mountain, and it took some time to figure out that somehow we've been sent 14 years into the future from our perspective. And then all this unfolded. We managed to get to Engner. Stuff happened there. We made our way here. So yeah, I used to be, or I am, I suppose, a castle guard with the Canine Division, with my trusty dog Critter over here. And
He says,
it's been a hell of a time for us.
I don't understand. How could you have been a guard 14 years ago? You would have had to have been just a boy.
No, we somehow got moved through time.
May I say something, Claude?
Yes.
Somehow we've all come together and we woke up in the mountain, and as time has progressed, we've all had like a recollection that we were marching together during the great storms 14 years ago towards a tower of some sort. That's all we've been able to really recollect. We don't know why we were there. There were many different factions from our different perspectives that we've been able to remember. But after the storms, sometime during that, I don't know if we were transported or put into some sort of magical sleep, but we woke up in that mountain.
He says, this happened to you during the storms?
The great storms 14 years ago.
And you
And
notice
what
that
is-
Lord Trevor kind of looks at all of you in a very mystified way. He says, you're not the first to share that story.
We're not?
He
Thank
shakes his
goodness.
head. He says, about 4 years ago, 2 men came here. 2 warriors. They said that a very similar story. They said that they woke up in the forests along the western end of the borderlands, and that they didn't remember how they'd gotten there. They said that they had flashes of memories, flashes of marching with some kind of army during the storms, but that the next thing they remembered, they woke up in the forests, and that somehow 10 years had passed, but they had not aged.
Yeah.
They came here seeking answers, claiming that they couldn't remember who they were with or why they were going to wherever they were going or even where they were going.
It's the same for me.
Same for all of us.
Where are they now?
And perhaps if we
Go ahead.
If we can, I'm going to name drop a couple of names of the captains and stuff from 14 years ago. See if he recognizes any of those names, and maybe one of these ABC are still around, and we can see if they should remember me from back then. I think.
He says, some of those names I know, but most of them died during the War of Southport. He says a few years after the storms is when the Empire staged the invasion of Southport. He says, my father traveled with a contingent of men down the river to reinforce Southport, and they never returned. My father included.
Well, back in Engler, I had the opportunity to meet Captain Elwick, and he was a former guard with me.
He says, yes, I remember Elwick. I know Elwick. He's one of the captains in charge of our reinforcements of Anger.
Yeah, and I met up with him, and he was duly surprised at me being still this young. And I explained everything to him, just like I explained to you. And I was hoping that maybe some of the old folk were still around, that they might corroborate and recognize me.
Or perhaps
I can find my family.
Many of the best men in service of Lee County went with my father to Southport to fight against the Empire.
I'm sorry to
He
hear
shakes
that.
his head and he says, none returned.
Well, perhaps my family is still around and they might recognize me, and I would love to see them all again.
Would your father have kept records of why he sent them? My lord?
Perhaps. My father's, he says, this is something that we could look into, to be certain. He says, but I still have the difficult task of deciding what course of action needs to be taken. He says, if I don't recall our forces in Aegner, that leaves us very vulnerable. And I do not fully know the scope of this threat from the Low People.
I have a suggestion. How many men do you have in Aegner?
He says there are 48 of our soldiers in Aegner.
Well, I was deployed with the Eastern armies, and I had command of a squad of archers. I would be happy to lend my services for your defense against the Horde.
I appreciate that offer, he says, but it is my thinking and the thinking of some of my captains that while we must focus on defense, we don't know against what or from where. He says the greater problem is identifying what this threat actually is.
Perhaps, my lord, we could attempt to find out some information for you. Go as a scouting party, perhaps.
Would you consider this?
Would we? I asked our group,
Yeah.
He says, if this is something that you would be willing to commit to, then I would tell you it would be most appreciated. And I would say further that if you were able to provide more information about what threats we face, that you would have full and unrestricted access to my library, which additionally contains the records, the journals, the ledgers of my father and our family's history here in Lee County.
Well, I'm basically still the guard of Lee Castle, so basically I'm still yours to command, so whatever you say.
He says, your loyalty is greatly appreciated, now more than ever. He says, I know that you have traveled from Anger, and I would not send you out immediately. May I suggest that perhaps you take shelter here at the castle, you rest, and then on the morning, you proceed towards this mission.
And I would like to take the opportunity this evening to go and seek out my family. See if they're still around.
Of course, as you desire. And if you do not seek to stay here at the castle, if you want to find accommodations at an inn anywhere in town within the walls, I would be happy to make sure that the innkeeper charged my house so that you incurred no debts.
Yes. I think we also still want to look into the people that were going after Lady Catherine and see those out. Sarah, you mentioned some of which inn was it again? That
Sleepy
want to go
Oak.
there.
Sleepy Oak.
Sleepy Oak.
Yeah, the Sleepy Oak and go there.
He says, as you see fit, I would just say to address whatever your needs are for what remains of today and to get a good night's sleep. Traveling outside of town and the castle, as I said, and as you've likely seen, I have very sparse reinforcements and very few fully trained militia members who are not already occupied with patrols and with other defensive matters. He says, so if you are in fact to travel in the morning, make sure that you rest well.
Yes.
He says, I will
Yes.
see to whatever needs you have for dining tonight. You are welcome in my hall. He says, but now I need to take some time to myself to contemplate these matters before I draft a missive to the mayor.
All right.
But
Thank
your
you, sir.
services, if you are indeed committing to these services, your services to Lee County will buy me some time, and therefore will also buy Mayor Durst some time before I recall the reinforcements.
Yes, Lord.
Yes.
He says, thank you all, truly, for not just delivering this missive, but for your willingness to assist us at this most crucial hour.
Thank you, Lord.
He nods to you all, and he kind of turns and walks off through the great hall towards an adjacent hallway.
As
The steward says, allow me to take you upstairs, provide you with rooms if you desire to rest before dinner, or simply to get yourself situated, and then if you wish to go to town. He says the dinner will be served in 2 hours, so you have some time.
As the Lord turned away from us and he was walking away, I just, called to him, like, my lord, and I bow deeply, just to be a little bit awestruck from the real nobility. And I'm sorry, sir, but if there are enemies of the Lee County, and if they are to kidnap Miss Katharina, they may be armed. I don't know how, but they may snuck some weapons inside. Is there a possibility for us to get at least somewhat armed to be able to investigate?
Lord Trevor says, once you leave the castle, you can carry weapons in town. That's not a problem.
Oh, thank you, sir.
You would simply take your token and retrieve your weapons as you leave.
Yeah.
Thank you, my sir.
You see the steward leads you guys up to the upstairs. There's just rows of rooms, and these are the most regal rooms that most of you, other than maybe those with a noble background like Sarah, have ever seen. Like, every room is like a suite with like a 4-poster bed and ornate furniture and very well appointed. The steward gets you guys situated in your rooms. Each one of you has your own room. You see like maids and servants kind of walking around, putting fresh pitchers of water and, clean bedpans next to your beds, all that stuff. So you kind of, presumably you offload some of your equipment.
Yeah.
And then you guys kind of regroup in the foyer. Where do you want to go at this point?
I want to seek out the steward.
And
Okay.
I want to head out.
He's around. The steward's there.
Okay.
I'd want to head out and go look for my family.
All right. So we don't split the party too much, let's blue book this. Sarah, what do you want with the steward?
I want to consult with those, the Center of Information on what has been gathered about the Horde so far, to look at it and analyze it. And
the steward tells you that you'll meet with the captains per Lord Trevor. You'll meet with the captains who were involved in scouting out the fallen village, and they could provide you with more information.
okay. I'll ask for directions, and I'll spend the afternoon there.
Okay. No, that's going to be like a later thing.
Okay.
Okay. So, Claude,
Mm-hmm.
you search the town for your family.
Yep.
They are not there. You go to the cottage where you grew up. It is owned by another family. And that other family has no idea who lived there before.
Okay. We'll probably know some. Would it be a town hall that would keep records?
Yes. In fact, the Church of the One True God is where you would find that.
Yeah.
And that is further up the road, just north of the castle, but still within the town walls.
Yeah. Head up there.
Okay. You see that there's a 2-story white painted building, and it has kind of a domed roof. You see that there are cottages, other residential houses and cottages like across the street from it and kind of around it. The grounds of the church have, you notice, like kind of in the far back of the yard, like several hundred yards behind the church, you see a small cemetery. You go to the church, and there's a priest of the one true God there, and he greets you, and he says, "How can I help you?"
Oh, good day, Father. I'm looking for my family, and they're not in the home that I remember them living. I was hoping to find records of where my family may have gone and live now.
Certainly. Come this way. He leads you into the church, and he goes over to this office that's just kind of off to the side, and he goes and he asks you some questions about like your family's names and when they lived in Lee County. And he finally opens up a page and he says, here we go. Steve and Lindy Oxborne.
Yep.
2 sons and a daughter, James, Claude, and
That's me.
Sabine.
Yep.
He says, yes, here's your birth records. Here's your parents. He says,
Does he pick up on my birthday and my appearance?
No. So you say, yeah, that's me. And he looks at you, and then he looks down at the book, and he looks back up at you, and he says, I'm sorry, this must be incorrect.
No, it's correct. Something happened, and me and a group got moved through time, or have in stasis, or something happened. We're not sure if it's the one through God that acted through, had plans for us and moved us here, or. But yeah, that's me.
So you haven't been here in 14 years?
That's correct. We left with a contingent sent by the Lord Lee, and during the storms, I somehow got here.
He says the storms. And you notice he kind of like looks down for a moment as if he's contemplating something. He says, my son, I'm very sorry. And by the way, he's like 30, but he puts his hand on your shoulder in a compassionate way. And he says, your parents died during the storms.
What? What about my brother and sister?
He says, and he shows you the book. He says, Steve and Lindy perished during the storms. He says their graves are in the cemetery. They were buried in the winter of 1120. He says, according to this record, your brother James traveled in 1122 with Lord Trevor Lee to fight against the Empire in Southport.
And I understand that none of them
as
returned.
Deceased. He says, I'm terribly sorry. He says, for what it's worth, your sister Sabine, I have no other records. Perhaps she's still in Lee County somewhere.
Oh boy.
He says, if you'd like to say prayers at your parents' gravestones, I can lead you to the cemetery, my son.
I would really like that, yes.
He takes you out of the church building, through the yard. You see that there's at the back of the building, there's like cellar doors, like, wooden cellar doors that open up directly to a cellar. He walks through the grounds towards a few hundred meters to the back of the church property. And you see dozens of gravestones. He walks around and he walks over towards these 2 gravestones, and you see your parents' names inscripted. You see a 3rd gravestone next to theirs with the name of your brother James Oxborne and the date of his being deceased as 1122. He says, I will say prayers for your family tonight and for you as well. May the one true God be with you, and may he grant you a spirit of courage during this time of your grief.
Thank you, Father.
And he walks back to the church. You stand in this kind of lonely graveyard, and you see, looking down at these gravestones, which do not look new. They look like they've been there for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And you see the markers of your parents and your older brother. Smash cut back to the rest of the group. Everyone else going to town? No?
I
Bane,
suppose.
Bane, what would
Ready
you
for
like
a drink.
Yeah,
I
I'll go
seek-
with Bane.
No, don't go with me. I seek
Oh, okay.
darkness and seclusion.
Oh,
Where do you seek this darkness and seclusion? In town? In the castle?
In the castle, I'm thinking maybe in your prison system you have a place that I can be quite alone.
There are dungeons for prisoners below that are not currently occupied. The steward finds this to be a weird request, but he accommodates you. He leads you down to the dungeons. They look like they haven't been used in quite a long time. And the steward tells you that there is a separate prison within the town for outlaws and criminals that's much smaller. He says that the dungeons really haven't been used in quite some time.
I do have one more request. Do you have some type of a sharpening stone?
Certainly. He gets one for you.
And then if you leave me to my devices, I shall be okay with myself.
He does. What do you do during your solitude?
I take the sharpening stone and the bronze dagger that I have hidden on my person,
Yes.
and I sharpen it, and I want darkness because I want the only thing to be seen is the red hot flame on the edge of the blade as I sharpen it.
Okay.
I'm going to cut the palm of my hand
Yes.
and hold it until the blood drips and hits the cell floor.
Yes.
And I'm going to sit with my legs crossed,
Yes.
and I'm going to say this. God of War, I have seen you in my visions. I know that you once called upon me to be your blade. I now call upon you. I feel a battle is coming. It is imminent, and I need your guidance. Let me be your blade once again.
Ooh. Roll percentile.
oh man, that's heavy.
That was metal as fuck.
83.
You say this solemn prayer. You feel the conviction in your heart. You feel like there is someone or something out there that is listening to you. But you don't hear or feel any response, which doesn't diminish your conviction.
Now I'll take a long rest. And some food and
Okay.
drink.
All right, everyone else going into town?
I'll
So-
follow whoever.
Sarah, you're going into town. Bivoj, you're going into town?
I'll be waiting for Bane.
You wait a long time, then you don't go into town. Oldrad,
Going to the Sleepy Oak.
so you and Sarah are going. Leonard, are you going to the Sleepy Oak?
Yeah, I want a drink outside of the formal.
Okay, so the
Place.
three of you go to the armory, you collect your weapons, you walk back down the hill. You walk over to the Sleepy Oak. And it is, by this time it's like 5 o'clock. So there's a lot of people in there having food, having drinks. It's a 2-story wooden building. There's a foyer that opens up directly into like the whole tavern. There's like wooden posts that support the second floor and tables. There's a long bar. In the corner, you see a middle-aged, blonde-haired, good-looking man playing music. He's playing a lute and singing a song. And that's generally pretty bustling. What would you like to do?
As we walk down the path, I want to speak with Oldrad a bit, and in the earshot of everyone else with me. You said that the old god's name that you found out about was Peshwas?
I suggest you not speak about those names out loud here.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm wondering, these rings, they have an initial on them. So we
Yes.
know of a ring with N.
And one with a crescent.
Yeah. And I was wondering about my visions. I saw a male in the forest. And do you recall the meeting you had that talked of a possible male forest spirit?
Do I, Bill?
No.
Because I've been failing those rolls consistently.
No, you do not.
I'm sorry, sir. As hard as I've been trying to remember, along with everybody else, I really can't recall that just yet.
Okay. I have a strange idea, and I might want to talk to you about it more in private.
Okay.
Okay, you guys arrive. It's bustling. Tables are full of people. There's servers running around with food and drinks. The bar is hopping, and there's a middle-aged, fair-skinned, shaggy blonde hair, clean-shaven, good-looking, colorfully dressed musician with a lute singing in the corner.
Let's get a table. Get some drinks and food.
Okay, you do. You order some drinks, you order some food, you're sitting at the table. Most of the people seem to be locals. And though the music is being performed and it's kind of lively, you see the general mood of everyone is just kind of a little bit down.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
As we're sitting and eating and drinking, I attempt to look throughout the tavern for specifically a woman, hopefully wearing a ring that's been described to us.
Okay. I will say that any of the three of you could go ahead and make a wisdom roll under.
Yep.
That's 6 under.
That is 1 under.
And I'm definitely way over, but I can't see how much. Yeah, that's 13 over.
Okay. Most of the people, as I mentioned, look like they are people from the borderlands. They are either from the Odai or the Geos ethnic group. You do see a couple people that are a little more tanned skinned. And one of them is a woman. She looks like she's maybe in her 20s and, kind of tan skin, long wavy black hair. And she's wearing very nice clothing. that doesn't look like what the people who maybe are from Lee County are wearing. Like most of the people in Lee County wear very common kind of clothing, but also sometimes layers of clothing because it gets colder at night. She's wearing kind of silky clothing. And she has like a cloak over her. She is sitting at a table with 3 other people who don't look like her. The 3 people that look like her are all fair-skinned with like light brown or blonde hair. And they're all wearing kind of more clothing like that you would think is appropriate for the northern part of the Borderlands. You can't see if she's wearing a ring though, because her hands are on her lap, like underneath the table.
Right.
But they seem to be engaged in a conversation, and they're kind of in a corner booth opposite from where the musician is playing music. And you guys are kind of at a table in the middle of the room.
Bill,
Yes.
I'm wearing the cloak with the frog clasp. Just to let you know.
So, very well.
Okay. I don't know if it matters, but so the music is kind of lively.
Yeah, the musician is doing his best to sing like, you know, happier songs with like kind of pleasing melodies. But it just doesn't, like, no one's getting up to dance. No one seems to be celebrating. Like the general mood is one of a little bit of melancholy. Like people are eating and talking and drinking, but no one's really like partying it up.
Leonard.
Yep.
Do you dance?
I tried a few times. I don't think I'm good at it.
Well, I know a simple one that'll go along with a song I think the bard might know.
Okay.
Want to come with?
As you're getting up, the bard finishes the last chord of a song, and he stands up and he says, "Thank you, thank you." No one's applauding. He's like,
I shout out a song.
"I'm just going to take a small break, ladies and gentlemen, but I'll be back soon. Thank you." And like after he says thank you for the 4th time, like 2 people clap, and then they go back to eating their stew. And you see
I
he
yell
kind
out,
of like sets his lute down on the little stage, and then he walks over towards the bar.
I was going to yell out Freebird, but I guess I won't.
Okay. What kind of dance did you have in mind anyway?
Well, I'll stand up and I'll demonstrate it. It's basically cross in the front, cross in the back, shuffle, shuffle, and then go the other way, the same way, cross in the front, cross in the back, shuffle, shuffle. You know, it's pretty easy. No hand holding. We can link our arms like this and dance the same way. We can face each other with our hands up, you know.
Yeah, I'll also stand up and try to imitate. And after I'm sure, or at least I think I know about some steps. Okay, so when he returns, we will do this.
Yeah, I'll have another drink.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and assist you guys.
What?
Hold on. Anyway, when the bard's break is over, I'm gonna go ahead and buy a whole round for the house, trying to cheer everybody up. A round for the house. I go up to we gotta lift the mood here.
Okay. You're buying a round for everyone.
Yep.
Uh-oh.
The bartender is like, and he starts like counting, like,
Yeah.
okay. He's like, how about 50 silver?
I slapped down 50 silver. I ain't giving him my gold.
He's like, oh, thank you. How generous. He says, a round on the house. And people are like, yay. And they cheer. And the people some people go up to the bar, and then other people are just putting in their orders with the servers. The bartender's like, truly, thank you. And you notice the musician looks over and he says, what a generous generous offering. He says, I thank you myself. And he beckons to the bartender for an ale. He says, I am Ferric. What is your name, good sir?
You're welcome, good sir. My name is Oldrad. I just felt like I wanted to lift everybody's spirits here.
He says,
Hopefully
truly,
this drink emboldens you to sing a rousing song for after your break, so we can get everybody a little bit happier.
He says, of course, let me just lubricate the old voice. I don't have the range that I once had many years ago, but I am still nonetheless inspired by your generosity, good sir. The people of
Thank you.
Lee County need such things in these dark times.
What is your name, if I may ask? I don't know if I
Ferric.
actually said it.
Ferric is my name, and music is my trade. I used to travel quite a bit more in my younger days throughout the borderlands, but as of late, travel has become hazardous, to say the least.
I pat myself on the chest. Well, things do get harder as we get older. You know, I'm not young myself, but I still got a little bit left.
Indeed, yes.
Yeah, we met a bard in Engner who sang.
Yeah, I don't remember that guy's name.
I was looking for it too. I don't remember him. Here's 2 silver for you to play. And I name a lively song that'll go with our dance.
You name a lively song that's 14 years old. He says, I know that song. He's like, that was a popular dance song back in the day.
Yeah.
He says, I believe it was called Pump Up the Jam. Yes. He goes back over with his beer. He goes back over to his stage. He picks up the lute. And he starts playing his song. And
right, Leonard.
People actually start getting into it. And, you know, they're kind of like dancing along in their chairs. A couple of older people get up and they start doing this dance with these moves.
Yeah.
I grab a young guy from one of the tables, and I swing him up with me, and we dance.
I go invite the tan woman for a dance with the drink in my hand as well.
You walk over to their table. When you get about 5 feet away, one of the men she's sitting with looks at you and he says, that's far enough. What do
Just
you want?
inviting the lady for a dance.
Make a charisma roll on her.
Shit. Oh, my charisma is trash. Yep. God. You gotta be shitting me. I rolled a 6 and I have a 6 charisma.
All right. So he's like, she doesn't want to dance with you, old man. And she says, maybe I do. And all 3 of the guys like look at her like, and then they look at you and she says, you'd better be a good dancer.
Oh, fuck. I take a drink.
One of the guys moves out of the booth and stands up next to you, and he's eyeing you up and down. And she gets out of the booth
my hand.
and she puts out her hand towards you, like as if to take her hand.
Yes, I do.
You see on her left hand, on her middle finger, is a silver ring.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a kind of a face to it, and on that silver ring you see an N, like an ornate N.
Yeah.
And you see lightning bolts in 4 corners aiming up at the N.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, all right, let's go dance.
I take her to the dance floor and I do my best.
Okay, you begin to dance, and you quickly ascertain that she has far greater dance skills than you.
Yes.
She begins kind of doing most of the flourishing dance moves as you sort of become.
I try to follow.
You're just like assisting. You're basically just like assisting her, and she's doing all the moves.
Yeah.
And as she's getting into this dance, you see other people kind of inspired by her dance moves, and they start to get up and dance around, and nobody holds a candle to her dancing skills. And she whirls around, her hair, like her dark curly hair, like whirls around with it. Almost her dress kind of flourishes as she's whirling around. And you could tell that Ferric is getting into this, and he kind of picks up the pace to correspond with her dance moves. And the whole song and the performance becomes this like tangible thing that everyone in the crowd starts to feel.
All right, I'm getting jealous.
Pause. Oldrad, make a
Yes.
wisdom roll under.
Oh, thank God. My friend, that was a natural one.
You sense something is happening here.
Okay.
What you sense is that her dancing is more than just something physical.
Oh, shit.
You get the impression that she has like made some kind of connection with Ferric, and that she, like, through her dancing now, like, he's gone from the song that he was originally playing to something else. And the style of the music is not something that you feel like is common to the Borderlands. It almost has the feel of something southern, like something from Southport.
Mm-hmm.
But she didn't say like, oh, hey, can you play this song? She literally just started the dance. And then all of a sudden it was like he started to pick up on what she was doing and started to correspond with his playing.
Okay. That's scary.
And
oh God.
She continues to dance, and she whirls, and she says, play the sweet melody. And he changes from a minor key into a major key, and she continues to dance, and he's continuing to play.
Okay.
All of you roll a d20 and tell me what you're
okay.
Just the three of you, obviously, were there.
No shit, it was
16.
another one. Like,
oh my
no
gosh.
joke.
I got a natural 20.
You got a natural 20. Oldrad, you are enthralled with this woman.
Oh,
she is not only the most beautiful woman you've ever seen and the greatest dancer you've ever seen, she just emanates nobility. Like, you are just enthralled with her.
Mm-hmm.
And she turns to you, and she puts her arms around your neck, and she's smiling and dancing with you, and you're kind of spinning around in this circle.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, where did you get that sword? It's incredible.
Shit.
And you begin to tell her exactly where you got
that. Shit.
And she says, tell me more about this chateau. Who was the lord of it, this chateau? Where was it? What year was it from? Like, everything that she wants to know, you're telling her. Smash cut back to Leonard. Leonard and Sarah, the music's playing loud. This beautiful tan-skinned woman's dancing with Oldrad like they're old lovers. What you guys are seeing is the crowd seems really enthralled by this, and you yourselves are like, yeah, this is some great music. This is a wonder. And like, Sarah, you recognize some of these songs that Ferric is playing from, like, some of the biggest hits of back in the day, you know, in Southport. Like, these are certainly great songs, but you notice that the general mood in the bar has lifted, and like everybody seems to be getting into it. People are standing up and dancing at their tables.
Question: am I getting exhausted? Or
no?
Or is it... Okay.
You're not exhausted.
Okay.
You don't feel compelled to dance, but you're not exhausted.
What about my natural 20?
Your natural 20? You definitely can do whatever you want to do.
You're not under a spell, my friend.
But do I hear the interaction?
No.
It's loud music.
I mean, you see her like with her arms around Oldrad, and they're like whirling around, they're dancing close, and she's talking to him, and he's like, they're smiling. He's smiling and just talking with her as they're dancing around. Do you go over
Somebody's-
there? Like,
Just,
do you
I'm
cut
just
in?
talking away.
Somebody
Okay.
seems to will have a good evening.
Okay,
Sarah,
I'll
do you go over there? Do you cut in? What do you do?
gee, I don't hear what they're saying. I'm happy to see Oldrad so happy and
You've
looking.
never seen Oldrad this
Yeah,
happy.
I know, and I'm going.
Oldrad has never fucking smiled, probably since you've seen him.
I'm thinking.
He's always
Well, no.
pissed.
Now I see he was probably once a handsome young man. This is great, but I am jealous of her dancing. I am.
I just turn to this Sarah and say, "This was an excellent idea. Do you want another drink?" And
No.
okay.
No.
And I turn to the bar and order myself another drink to refill, basically.
No. I tell you, Leonard, I'm not pleased.
Sarah finds herself speechless.
I'm
Smash cut,
upset that she dances so well.
smash cut back to someone who is completely not speechless. Oldrad, after explaining the wonderful tale of the cursed chateau and how you came upon this great weapon that's made of some interesting yet mysterious metal,
Yeah.
she tells you that she's so pleased that you came here, and she's just curious. Where did you come from? Where were you most recently? To which you respond, "We were in Anger." And then she asks you, "Well, what did you do there?" And basically, over the course of 1 minute, she determines where you came from. The last thing she asks you is, "Did you happen to run across a group of 4 people traveling towards Lee County?"
Okay, now I cut in.
2 women and 2 men.
Now I
At
cut
which
in.
point in time, Sarah, you cut in. And she's like, "Excuse me, I'm dancing with this distinguished gentleman." Oldrad, all of a sudden it occurs to you that all of that blathering that you just did
Yeah.
was not of your own volition.
Yeah.
You feel like you were under some spell. She
He
still has
And
her arms wrapped around you, though.
Yeah,
She's looking at Sarah.
I look at Eldrad and I said, "Oh, Eldrad, your condition, you're getting overheated. Remember your condition. Remember your.
I understand. I understand.
Okay.
I lean in and I whisper and I
Pause. Sarah,
yes.
make a charisma roll under.
Okay. Oh boy. I hope I do this one. Okay, here we go. Come on. Yes! 6 under.
Excellent. Oldrad, you
Yes.
do what now?
I assume I'm not under these effects anymore.
You are not.
I-
Just before you were about to answer.
Yeah. Okay. So I take her hands off and I just lean in. "Thank you for the dance, ma'am.
She says,
I haven't felt
"What's your name, good sir?"
thank you. I haven't felt happy in a long time. But what you did to me was not nice. I understand what you
says-
did.
She leans into you and she whispers in your ear.
Yeah.
And she says, "The old gods reward the faithful." And then she smiles at you. And then she walks back over to her booth.
Yeah. I go to the bar. I need a strong drink.
And I walk with you. And I'm basically saying in a low tone stuff like, "Now remember what the last cleric said about your heart and you know
Yes.
and
Yes,
the
dear,
arthritis."
Leonard,
Yes, dear.
Leonard, you notice when she returns to her table that she leans in. One of the guys gets out so that she could get back into the booth. And she sits down and they're talking. And you see 2 of the guys get up from the booth and leave. So she's still sitting at the booth with the
one.
other 2
Yeah.
guys.
I will see probably Oldrad and Sarah also heading to the bar, so I will ask, So, how was the dance to Oldrad?
It was wonderful. I haven't felt a moment of happiness like that in a very long time since my wife and children died. So, it was nice. But unfortunately, she used magic to convince me to tell her a lot of things I didn't want to tell her.
Should we be prepared after we exit the bar? Her escort seems to be moved.
As Leonard,
I don't know what to
mentioned
do
this,
right now.
You notice, you look over your shoulder. You see her at the booth with 2 of the guys, but 2 of them have left.
So she had 4 in total originally?
Yeah.
Okay. I lean in to Leonard and Sarah and say, she is a adherent of the old gods. I don't know what her intentions are, of course, but I don't know what we should do at this point.
The bartender returns. He has a goblet, and he says, "Sir, you and your generosity deserve to be rewarded. This is on me." He says, "This is a fine sherry." And you smell
Thank
it,
you.
Sweet, super strong.
Yeah.
You
know what? I light up the pipe to start drinking.
Okay.
Oldrad,
Yes, Sarah.
can I take a little sip of this sherry first?
Oh, of course.
Okay, so I'll wet my lip with it.
It sends you back. It sends you back to your time in Southport. This is not something that would be made in the northern part of the Borderlands. This is a bottle of a sherry that you would most closely associate with something that you would have gotten in Southport, or maybe from the southern kingdom of where you were from. This is a very finely made kind of alcohol.
The taste of home.
Indeed. Where did you get this?
You asked the bartender?
Yeah.
He says, "Well, I was paid for it, but I've had a few bottles for quite some time, but most of the folk here either can't afford it or don't really find it to their taste." He says, "But the lady in the corner who's been here for a few weeks, she has consumed quite a bit of it, which I'm happy to say has made me a little bit better off for the price."
May I look at the bottle?
Sure. He goes and he gets this bottle off the shelf, and it's a curved bottle that has that comes up to a head and has like a cork in the top.
And I slide the glass over to Oldrad. And I look at the bottle. I'm looking for various marks on it, maker's marks.
You see that, in fact, the bottle looks pretty old. And it bears a brand that you recognize from Fovaros, which is the port city in the south of the Eastern Kingdoms, a port city that your family knows well and has business with. A port city that traded very frequently with Southport.
Wow. I put it down and I say, "Very good."
Yeah, I am consuming it because I need it.
Okay, you do.
Since she stopped dancing, is the crowd calming down, or are they still?
No, like the general mood overall is lifted. Ferric kind of plays a different song, and it's still festive. and people seem to be overall a little bit happier.
Yep. So, yeah, I will probably return to the dancing if anyone wants.
I'll walk over to the table with the lady on it.
You walk over to the booth?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll stop several paces away before one of the guys gets up.
Okay. They look at you. One of the guys looks at you, and she says, "Hello. Good evening."
And I bow, and I say, wonderful dancing. Dare I say, I was quite jealous, as I consider myself a very good dancer, and I see that I have a lot to learn.
And she smiles and she says, "Well, that is very kind of you. Thank you."
Yes, I understand that you've been the bartender gave my old friend a special liquor that I remember coming from the Eastern Kingdoms. And I'm familiar with
She looks down into her goblet, and it's at this point that you notice that there's another bottle of the same stuff on her table. She says, yes, it's a little taste of home.
Oh, you're from the Eastern Kingdoms?
No, not... Well, she says, my family originally was, but we've lived in Southport for quite some time.
Ah. I am originally from the Eastern Kingdoms.
Oh.
My name?
She says, you forgive me, but you're quite fair-skinned.
Yeah, I am mostly Geos. But my family is the Marjits, from the Marjit Trading Company.
She says, oh. She says, my lady, forgive me. She says, move over, Jeffrey. And the guy's like, and he gets up. And she says, please have a seat.
I don't need this. I am not that important.
She says, no, I insist.
I will sit close but not touching, and I won't take a drink.
She says, I know the Marjit Trading Company.
How are they doing? I've been away from them for a time.
The Marjit Trading Company is doing well. Most of the balance of their trade tends to be shifted from the Eastern Kingdoms now. They do conduct quite a bit of business between the Kingdom of Hazadas and Southport. Most of their shipping is between Azkora, the capital of Hazadas, and Southport. But they still maintain a strong fleet, and they conduct quite a bit of business. She says, are you here on business? She's like, it seems so far away for someone from Southport.
Well, I wasn't really cut out for business. I went into the Eastern Kingdom's military, and then after my commission was up and I mustered out, I was there for several years, various things. And then I decided that I would either help the family with their trade routes or help others with their caravans and trade routes.
Ah, well, that's very noble in service of your family then. But I assume that you perhaps haven't been in touch with your family?
No, I haven't. How are they?
She says, well, I can't say that I personally know any members of your family. I know of the trade company, but
Okay. Well,
She
that's
says,
good to know.
But you are a Marjit. You're from that family.
Yes.
Says so. Well, I wasn't aware. You'll have to forgive me. I wasn't aware that there were any members of your family in the Borderlands, but it is
Yeah.
it is nice to meet someone, a fellow countryman, as it were, of Southport, and truly, it's a pleasure.
If you happen upon any of the Marjits, just let them know that Sarah Florian Marjit is still doing what she has been doing for the past many years.
And she looks at you when you say for the past many years. She looks at you and she's like, "How many?" She's like, "Did you leave your family when you were a child? I'm confused."
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was about. Oh, it's hard to explain. It was about 7 or so years ago, but many adventures have happened, and it seems like longer. I mean, you know how it is being away from family.
Smash cut over to Oldrad and Leonard. You're at the bar, and you see Sarah is sitting at the booth with the noble lady.
This is like a question. So when I finally saw that ring, I don't think I saw it in any of my recollections, my personal ones. Did it evoke any sort of like remembrance? Because especially after her saying what she said to me, like, does it remind me of anything I might have known before? Like,
make an intelligence roll on her.
Or the some bitch. I know you did that on purpose.
Who says that the DM can't derive joy from the suffering of the players?
Oh, I know it all too well as well. I rolled 2 over. I rolled an 8.
Okay, the only thing that like remotely rings a bell is the whole lightning bolt motif. That's it. The N, like her, nothing.
Yeah. I figured.
And
Smash cut
your
back
name.
to Sarah at the booth. She
And
says,
your name.
She says, well, you had asked her something to deliver a message, and she says, I intend to return to Southport in hopefully a few days' time, if it's safe to travel by river. She says, you're more than welcome to join me if you desire passage. I have papers, so there won't be any issue with Imperial occupation forces.
Well, unfortunately, my friend over there, the gentleman you were dancing with, is quite spent, so I'll have to consult with him and others about the trip. What is your name?
Were you traveling with Oldrad recently?
How do you know his name?
Well, he told me.
Oh,
He's
he
a
did.
gentleman. Yes.
Oh yeah.
He told me all about the chateau of what was it? Lord Judain Ayare. Very curious. I'd not heard of that noble family. In fact, I didn't even know that there were any noble families in the Borderlands. So it must have been a very secluded estate.
May I have your name?
Of course. My name is Karamina Nicolo. And that is where we'll end this adventure of the Lamenters. Stay tuned to find out what happens next in Season 2 of the Lamenters, everybody. Thanks, as always, to all of you for liking, subscribing. We hope you enjoy this game, and we'll see you next time. Peace out.
Well, hello, and welcome to Bill Allen World. I am Wizzy, the Wizard. I'm back once again to remind you to subscribe and click on the notifications button, and also watch videos that are over there. Tune in to the next episode of whatever show you are just watching, and watch other shows featuring Bill. He made me say that because he's a narcissist. Okay, bye.